If you remember your Antigone, King Creon of Thebes was the guy who forbid the Argive war dead to be properly buried, thus kicking off Sophocles' immortal tragedy. I mention that here because the same guy is alleged to be responsible for the myth of the Teumessian fox. It seems appropriate that a legendary king left his mark on so many legends, including this one. In this story, King Creon, and by extension all of Thebes, was being punished by the gods. Why? We don't know. Nor does it really matter. The gods were always getting their noses out of joint for some mortal failing or other, and King Creon was often that guy. Regardless, the gods sent a gigantic fox, sometimes called the Teumessian fox, sometimes the Cadmean vixen, to ravage the Theban countryside as punishment. While we don't know why Thebes was being punished, legend says the fox was doing a fine job of it. Not only was the vixen of a natural large size, so nothing, not livestock, houses, or even people, were safe from her, but she also had a special virtue. She was destined never to be caught. Not by the wisest, swiftest hunter or anything else. She was far too clever for any trap and too fast for anything else. If an archer shot at her, she'd be gone before the arrow even got there. Some accounts say she could even outrun her own shadow. Unstoppable, uncatchable, the Teumessian fox was the perfect instrument for the gods' revenge. Now Creon's kingdom was in turmoil, which was never a good look for a king. But what could he do? Attempt to appease the gods? Certainly. But that took prayers, sacrifices, and a lot of time, and the crisis was going on now. Here accounts do differ. In one version, King Creon consults the blind sage Tiresias, who advises him to use the hound Laelaps. Laelaps, like the Teumessian fox, also had a special virtue, which I'll get to in a minute. However, in another version, it wasn't Tiresias he returned to, but the hero Amphitryon. Amphitryon the Argolid had to flee his homeland after inadvertently being the cause of his father-in-law's unfortunate demise. Creon gave him safe haven, and after that his loyalty was to Thebes. In this version, it was Amphitryon who thought of using the hound Laelaps. Laelaps had originally been a gift from Zeus to Europa, one of his many paramours. As the divine hound, Laelaps had his own special virtue, which made him the only possible way to deal with a fox destined never to be caught. Laelaps was destined to always catch whatever he hunted. First, however, Amphitryon had to hunt Laelaps. Since he had been bestowed on Europa, Laelaps had passed through several hands over the following years. Amphitryon finally tracked the hound to a man named Cephalus, who allowed Amphitryon to borrow him for the cause. Now the chase was on. The fox destined never to be caught, pursued by the hound destined never to fail in a hunt. You could probably already see where this is going. It's the old irresistible force meeting the immovable object paradox. By definition, if one exists, the other cannot exist, and vice versa. Yet this is legend, and the presence of two mutually exclusive creatures was par for the course. Legend or not, it was a contradiction that threatened to tear the fabric of reality right in half. Granted, reality was more malleable in those days. Worse, since the hound both could and could not catch the fox, and the fox could and could not be caught, Laelaps' relentless pursuit of the Cadmean vixen was likely to do more damage than she had all by herself. Worse still, it would never end. It was during all this commotion that Zeus got involved. He likely didn't want to, but the king of the gods realized he had a nightmare scenario on his hands. Destiny said that neither of these creatures could fail, and even the gods were helpless against destiny's decree. Yet for this destruction to end, one of them had to fail, which would not only have broken destiny, but actually defied the fates. Zeus was known to be impulsive, but he had too much sense to go down that particular path. So, what did Zeus do? The only thing he could do. He punted, after a fashion. In one version, he transformed both Laelaps and the Teumessian fox into stones, close to each other but never touching. In another version, into stars, further away but never out of sight. And they're both still pursuing and escaping to this very day. Except neither can be said to have failed to catch or not escape from the other, as the chase has never ended. But we mortals were able to get on with our lives. Sometimes kicking the can down the road is not only the best solution, it's the only one.